Hello, and thank you for joining us. Top administration officials deny sending intelligence information or war plans in a group chat on the app Signal, in which a journalist was inadvertently invited. In light of that very journalist releasing screenshots and a fuller text chain discussing military strikes on the Houthis. The Atlantic's Jeffrey Goldberg released more texts that show Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth discussed when the planes would launch, when the target would be at the strike location, and when the first bombs would drop. He sent these messages before the mission was executed. The White House has downplayed the contents of the group chat and instead is focused on what it calls a successful mission to protect America and its interests, since the Houthis have been threatening global shipping in the Red Sea for months. Hegseth and Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who was also in the group, defended the chat and the administration's response.
There's no units, no locations, no routes, no flight paths, no sources, no methods, no classified information.
I've been assured by the Pentagon and everyone involved that none of the information that was on there, though not intended to be divulged, obviously that was a mistake and that shouldn't have happened, and the White House is looking at it, but that none of the information on there at any point threatened the operation or the lives of our servicemen.
The White House also attacked Jeffrey Goldberg as a, quote, anti-Trump reporter, but Goldberg tells senior White House and political correspondent Ed O'Keefe he never asked to be included.
They included me in the chat. I was in the chat. They're screaming and yelling about my character. All I did was look at my phone. So if I'm such a nefarious individual, why is Mike Waltz? Why am I in Mike Waltz's phone? Why does he have my phone number? Why is he including me in this chat?
Administration officials have also defended using the encrypted app Signal to have the conversation about military strikes. While speaking to reporters in the Oval Office Wednesday, President Trump had this to say.
I don't know that Signal works. I think Signal could be defective, to be honest with you. And I think that's what we have to, because you use Signal and we use Signal and everybody uses Signal, but it could be a defective platform, and we're going to have to find that out.
Ben Gomez joins us now. He's the CBS News Executive Director for the White House and politics coverage. How has this evolved over the last 24 hours? National Security Advisor Mike Waltz was at first catching the most heat for inviting Jeffrey Goldberg into the chat. Is that still the case?
Yes, it is primarily still him. But since the Atlantic on Wednesday released the entire Signal chat, among those senior national officials who were on that chat, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, who was providing exact timings of warplane launches and when bombs would target Yemen's Houthis. He has received more criticism for providing some of that information. And as you said, the administration has downplayed questions surrounding how details that some former U.S. officials have said should have been classified and ended up on that Signal chat with Goldberg. The scrutiny over Signalgate, has centered around Waltz. Who did inadvertently add Goldberg. But he did say, as you mentioned, he said he's never met him. He trashed his reputation, called him the scum of journalists. But, when Ed O'Keefe, in that great interview by Ed O'Keefe, when he asked Goldberg how he knew him, he said he wasn't going to comment on it. But photos, Lindsay, did surface earlier today showing the two at a French embassy in 2021. And then he also said, if you've seen these attacks against Goldberg, but again, why then is he in his phone? He asked. Why was he included in this chat?
What are Republicans saying, both publicly and privately? Are they on board with how the administration is responding so far?
Well, the president just said in the Oval Office if he still believes that no classified information was shared in this group chat. He said that that he really focused on. He said that you should ask the people who were involved, and either he was not sure. A little bit of a little less of that pronounced statement that we saw yesterday from the president. He also did call it, and we've heard this before. President Trump called it a witch hunt. And look, and the criticism that Hegseth has been facing, he was asked about that, and he did say that his Secretary of Defense had nothing to do with it. He said he had been doing a great job, but he did also attack Signal as a defective platform, and did focus on saying how the Houthis have been horrible to the world, and these actions killed and have hit these people harder, these Houthis harder than they've ever been hit. But again, you played some Rubio sound earlier. He did, I thought, was really notable. So he did make a statement that was really notable also, where he acknowledged that it was a big mistake in adding this journalist Goldberg to the chat. And also, I would say this whole new article by The Atlantic created a firestorm after it was released. Many conversations happening behind closed doors within the administration, within the White House. They told us that it was really hard to defend. Sources within the White House. Some folks have said that some Republicans that we have spoken to, and we've heard this loudly, really coming from the Hill, that there should have been more of an acknowledgement by administration officials that this was a mistake. And we also know that Republican senators have asked for inspector generals to look into this. Specifically, some Republican senators have on this chat controversy. So we have, we're now on day 3, and it does sound like it's getting a little more pronounced here. Definitely from Democrats on the Hill. We've heard that, but also from Republicans.
I have to be quick with you, but the president made an announcement on auto tariffs. What should Americans know?
Simply, Trump says that the U.S. will be effectively charging a 25% tariff on autos imported into the country. But he says if you build your car in the United States, there is no tariff. Lindsay.
When does that start, Finn?
April 2nd.
Okay. What President calls Liberation Day in America. Finn Gomez, thank you so much.
That's right.
On Tuesday, Senate lawmakers questioned top intelligence officials about the Signal group chat. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard and CIA Director John Ratcliffe said under oath they did not recall anyone discussing the timing of the strikes. That was before we got to see the full text chain. We now know the timing of the strikes was discussed in the chat. Director Gabbard was asked about the discrepancy during a hearing Wednesday with House lawmakers.
My answer yesterday was based on my recollection or the lack thereof on the details that were posted there. I was not, and what was shared today reflects the fact that I was not directly involved with that part of the Signal chat.
CBS News Congressional reporter Taurean Small joins us now. Taurean, what were your other takeaways from this hearing?
Well, I think that exchange especially was a bit remarkable, and this is what I've been hearing from Democrats around the Hill. They've found it quite concerning, the fact that these top intel officials were so willing to distance themselves from the controversy during the first day of questioning from senators, that they potentially, and they're alleging this, lied to lawmakers about their knowledge of what exactly was included in this text message. And just as a reminder, the text messages or partial text messages were released before the Senate intel hearing yesterday. It's understandable that Democrats would ask then or imply that it's reasonable for these officials to review that article or the text messages that were part of that article before going into that hearing. So I found that interesting. It was also notable that Gabbard also made mention to litigation that has since come out of this. She mentioned a watchdog group is suing the Trump administration and intel officials as part of this for their handling of records. And just to remind our viewers, according to the texts that were released as part of that group chat, that text chain was set to disappear or expire within a week's time. That would potentially be not in line with record laws in the United States when it comes to official government communications.
Do lawmakers want to know more about that specifically, Taurean, and that maybe these records wouldn't have been subject to congressional oversight? And any plans for Congress to investigate this further?
Right, and that's one of the arguments that Democrats are making. Certainly on one side of this, they're saying this could have compromised national security. But on the other end, they're saying that it's a bit insidious, that they were using these non-approved channels for communications that would potentially cover up any communications that they've had. And like I said, as part of this lawsuit, many people are saying that that goes against set laws for the United States when it comes to this type of communications. We've seen Democrats come forward saying that members of Trump's administration involved in this should resign or should be fired. We're also seeing Democrats saying that they're going to investigate more. The question, though, is how much teeth behind that threat do Democrats have, considering they're in the minority, Lindsay?
Taurean Small, thank you. Later this hour, we'll speak with our national security contributor, Sam Vinograd, for more on the Signal group chat leaks and the administration's response.